Minute left. Um, we're going to take a quick break to bring back our radio listeners. We are talking to Edwith Theogene. Uh, okay, we'll be right back with more Deadline DC right after this very short break. Okay, welcome back to Deadline DC. Brad Van. Guest in this half hour is Edwith Theogene, Advocacy Director of Generation Progress. We're talking about Judge Ketanji Brown-Jackson's confirmation hearings, and the most striking thing I saw out of the hearings was how calm, cool, and collected she was, dealing with a bunch of Republicans, some of them trained lawyers, as Edwith pointed out, asking ridiculous questions. It just was horrifying, and I think the new justice came off very well, compared to the peanut gallery. Uh, Ted Cruz. What the other thing I saw in the confirmation hearings, Edwith, and I'd like you to comment on this, is the Republicans are convinced that the culture wars are their ticket to electoral victory. Uh, Cruz, in particular, talked about her rulings on child porn. At least a couple of them seem to indulge in racial dog whistles, and they seem intent on believing that's their ticket to success in the political arena. Are they wrong about that, Edwith? Oh yeah. And she said, "I'm not a biologist." No. Well, let me ask you, because I want to pursue this a little bit. Somebody is totally wrong here, and it's either us or Ted Cruz. Now, I prefer to think that we were right. But if you listen to the Ted Cruz, the Lindsey Grahams, and the Josh Hawleys on the during the confirmation hearings, we're completely on different planets. And this is what I think the Republican theory is. I always hate trying to explain Republican theories because after working with them for decades, I still don't understand Democrats, and I've been working closely with them for longer than I care to admit. But I think the Republican theory goes something like this. Their secret, their theory is that in a midterm election, at least talking about, the 22 midterm elections, that the way to drive and win the midterms is to galvanize their turnout among, especially older white voters. And it's worked before. It's worked before. And their theory is we get our people all juiced up on this culture war stuff, and they'll turn out. Democratic voters aren't particularly enthusiastic, so we can mouth off on it with these crazy theories, and it will actually help us rather than hurt us. And then, in terms of the presidential election in 2024, I think the theory is that, we can, do anything or say anything crazy it is to drive up our base vote among older white Americans, because Joe Biden is toast. And regardless of how crazy our candidate is, whether it's someone like Ted Cruz or Donald Trump or God knows who else, we can beat Biden regardless of how crazy we are, talking about this culture stuff. And they really are, too. In addition to the hearings, you look at Florida, where you have this don't say gay law, which is, ridiculous. In Texas, and now Oklahoma, you have almost total bans on abortions. You had this case over the weekend. This poor woman in Texas who was pregnant was arrested and charged for trying to self-induce an abortion. This seems all like crazy to people like us, but is there a method to the Republican madness, or we just yeah, are they right and we're completely wrong, or are we right and are they completely wrong? And that is very necessary, because one thing that I see in the national polls, and one reason why Republicans have such a big advantage going into the midterm elections, is that their base is very galvanized. If you ask voters, are they excited and looking forward to the midterm elections in November? Republicans are much more likely to say yes than people who intend on voting Democratic. What can we do about that? Now, I guess I mean, the pretext for these questions is, I look at national polling data, and it is not a pretty picture. Um, it really isn't. Uh, president's job ratings are barely scraping at 40% positive. Republicans have a big lead in the generic national congressional trial heat. Voters are, unhappy despite the economic improvements. They're unhappy with the state of the economy. What can we do? We got 7 months to go to fix this. Okay, Edwith, thank you for joining us. Our guest in this half hour was Edwith Theogene, Advocacy Director of Generation Progress. In the first half hour, we had the noted economist, Dr. Rob Shapiro. Enjoy the rest of your week. Be safe and be strong in these troubled and turbulent times, and make sure you turn into Deadline DC Mondays at 3 p.m. Eastern Time.